Now, positive thoughts aren't a panacea. They're not a cure-all. You can't just use positive thoughts the whole time and imagine that they're going to fix everything. So I want to just talk about a few specific criticisms that there are of the idea of replacing negatives with positives, or just using very positive thinking in sport. Okay, so there is a relationship between positive self-statements, affirmations, and higher self-esteem. People who are more confident do tend to talk to them about themselves and to themselves more positively than those who are low in confidence. So there is this, Michael Phelps is more likely to talk positively about his swimming than I am, being a reasonably or very average swimmer, okay? The problem is that there is this association between confidence and performance, and there's also an association between ice cream sales and shark attacks, such that, as you can see from this graph, an increase in ice cream sales is associated with an increase in shark attacks. And so the conclusion of this graph is that we should restrict our ice cream sales, because by restricting ice cream sales, we'll be able to prevent people from being eaten. There's obviously a problem here. What else would explain that relationship? And I think the clear one is that the temperature would, okay? If it's hot, that would lead to more people swimming. It's summer, there might be more sharks around, and it'll also lead to more ice cream sales. Now, we don't really know exactly what's going on. It could be going in any direction. That's the most obvious hypothesis. But, it could be that people are getting weighed down by all the ice cream they eat, or that the sharks are depressing people so they eat more ice cream, and that there is just an association there, and we have to prove which direction it's going in, okay? And with confidence, that's more complicated than it is with ice cream and shark attacks. And with things like affirmations, sure, there is this relationship that one leads to that one is associated with the other, but is there a third variable? Is it that success is leading to more affirmations and more confidence, okay? So there are some researchers that tested this by trying to improve people's affirmations. Does it improve their confidence? Wood and colleagues asked people, not athletes, granted, but they asked them to repeat, "I'm a lovable person." So they had to say that to themselves. I think it was every morning for a week or so, okay? And what they found was that people with high self-esteem, which are the black bars, saying "I'm a lovable person" did improve their confidence. That, yes, I am lovable, it's pretty awesome, hey. But the problem was that people who had low self-confidence actually dropped their level of self-esteem by saying that. So what's going on there? What it seems like is happening is that people's kind of BS detector is kicking in. That as soon as they're like, "I'm a lovable person," if you don't have self-confidence, then your mind will hit you with all of the reasons you're not lovable. You're like, "Well, my girlfriend just broke up with me, and God, I remember that failure. Actually, I haven't really succeeded at work either." So, when you say positive affirmations, this research is saying that it works for people who have high confidence. But for people who don't, it makes them go further down, okay? So in the short term, affirmations help people with high self-esteem. But for those who don't have high self-esteem, it makes them worse. And this was particularly true when we asked people to say how true they were of themselves. So if it was like, "I'm a lovable person," why is that true? Okay, if you had high self-esteem, it lifted your self-esteem even more, because you're like, "Well, I've got great friends and my family love me," and all that sort of stuff. But if you don't have high self-esteem, saying "I'm a lovable person," your mind says, "Well, no, that's not true." And if it says, "Well, think about why it is true," then your mind will go, "Well, it's really, really, really not." Okay. So the issue here is that you often don't say affirmations unless you are lacking in confidence. So we need to be careful and really test whether these affirmations and positive self-statements are working for people who need them, for people who have low self-confidence. So maybe this strategy isn't the approach. I want to test this with you and see what happens. See if you can get a sense of what's going on in this phenomenon. I want you to close your eyes and notice what your mind does when I say the following things, okay? So I just want you to really get in the zone and just close your eyes for a moment. Notice what your mind does when I say these. "I'm the best student in the room, the best student in the whole class. room, because you're probably watching this by yourself. I'm the best student in my whole class. I'm a brilliant human being. I am perfect. What did you notice happen, if you're honest? And I mean, what I find, if you're like me, is that when I say some of those things to myself, my mind goes, yeah, right. You're not perfect. Think about all of those things that you've got to improve. Or you're not that brilliant, mate. Like, think about that, you can't even find your keys most mornings, okay? And so when you say these positive self-statements, if they're overly positive, a lot of the time that will reduce your level of confidence, because your mind will kick in with all of the negative thoughts that come up, okay? So we have to be careful when we start promoting positive self-talk, because a lot of the time, if we use it incorrectly, it can have the opposite effect. A similar approach to dealing with negative thoughts is to kind of block them out, okay? The coaches and books, Weinberg and Gould, talk about thought stopping as an approach for dealing with negative thoughts. So I want to test this out. I want you to see if you can stop some thoughts. Take a moment and do whatever you can to not think about what I'm about to tell you, okay? You can close your eyes, do whatever you want. You can't close the video, but just do whatever you can to not think about a white bear, okay? Just really get stuck into trying to block that thought out. Don't think about his big face and his little black nose, okay? Don't think about where he would live. How's that working? The problem here, again, is that I find the more I try to suppress that thought and not think about it, it's just there. It keeps popping up, okay? And the only way I'm able to do this is to really strongly think about something else, like ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. In which case I would be useless on a footy field, okay? If I have to block out a thought of failure, say if I'm trying to kick a goal, and I'm really trying to block out the fact that if I miss this, the game's going to lose. And I'm really trying to stop that thought, okay? First of all, the research says the more people use thought suppression, the more it increases that forbidden thought in the long term. So the more I try to stop thinking about the white bear or missing the kick, the more likely that thought is to come back. And if I successfully do it by thinking about ice cream or something irrelevant, then that would make it very difficult for me to focus on the actual task at hand, which is kicking the goal, okay? So sometimes the don't think about it strategy is very flawed. We by trying to block out thoughts and stop thinking about a situation, it just can really make it difficult to actually pay attention, and sometimes that means the thoughts can come flooding back in the future. And so if you put yourself into this little fella's shoes, don't stare at his legs, don't stare at his legs, don't stare at his legs, where is your eyes going to go? Like, you can really try to focus on his eyes, but it's kind of cute and funny, but like it just makes it really difficult to use this strategy. And as much as you try, a lot of the time this has what's called a paradoxical rebound effect. The more you try to suppress something, the more it can come back. So there's some important lessons so far. Lorna, our friend Lorna Jane will come, wake up every morning and say something positive to yourself. A lot of the time, if you need to listen to this Lorna Jane stuff, it might have a bit of a rebound effect, we're saying. And so you need to be aware of Lorna Jane science, this common sense approach to psychology. Our experiments are fundamental to our understanding of what's going on. And it's really important that we do really good, rigorous experiments and put them all together to get a balanced picture of what is going to happen. But having said that, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. For some people, it's helpful to have positive thoughts. For a lot of people, even those with low self-esteem, it can be helpful to spend a bit of time challenging your negative beliefs. But what we're saying is that you need to make sure that the interventions we use are evidence-based, and they're not just a simple principle like, hey, yeah, positive thoughts help, doesn't mean we apply it to everybody in every situation.